Hi guys, Joe White here, and I want to welcome you to my YouTube.
How's everybody doing tonight? Officially, welcome to the 17th annual CWF Rumble. We thank all of you who have come from near and far. I look out into the crowd tonight, I see faces that have been here for 15 out of those Rumbles, or 16 out of those Rumbles, maybe even a couple of 17 out of those Rumbles. Thank y'all so much. I look out into the crowd and I see new faces that have come from out of state to be part of this weekend. And we humbly thank you for your support. It is inconceivable to myself and to Grant and to everyone else who's been a part of these events for so many years that this thing that we created in a small room in a small town in North Carolina has become something that people would travel from states away to see and feel and take part of. So humbly, we thank you very much. In particular, I have a need in my heart tonight to thank JP and JB for all the work they put in to organizing the first ever CWF Fan Con this weekend. Organized by the fans, for the fans. And I thank everyone that took time out of their weekend to come be part of it, and I hope that you were entertained. For our fans centrally located here in the Carolinas, I want to go ahead and let everybody know 1 week from tonight, we will have a Rising Generation League Halloween party. So by all means, come out, dress up, get costumes, bring kids, please, because we're going to have a lot of good stuff, fun stuff, out of the ordinary stuff planned for that one. That's 1 week from tonight for the Rising Generation League. Now I got one more piece of business. And again, I have a need in my heart to say that this event in particular is dedicated to the memory of our friend Scott Island. I didn't want to give this speech in Chapel Hill because as much as we love going to Chapel Hill is not our home. This is our home. And it felt right to give this speech here. Scott Island was a wonderful human being. He was a tremendous friend to independent wrestling. He was someone who had such a love and such a passion for what we do. And I don't know, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. I'm 34 as I stand here now. And I don't know that I've ever seen anyone who was as genuinely happy and joyous to be a part of wrestling as Scott Island. So we're going to do two things tonight. We're going to do two things tonight to honor Scott's memory, as is customary in the fellowship and the fraternity of wrestling. When we lose someone, I'm going to ask everyone, stand if you feel so inclined, bow your head if you feel so inclined, as we honor Scott's memory and mourn his passing, as we toll the bell 10 times in memory of our dear friend, Scott Island. And the second thing that we're going to do to honor Scott Island's memory, and this is not pandering at all when I say this, is when we call 3, 2, 1 and the lights come up, we're going to blow the roof off the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium because that's what Scott Island would want us to do. He would want an event dedicated to him to kick off in a big, passionate uproar. So, everyone, for our friend who's not here, and because I guarantee you there's a locker room chock full of people back there that are going to give you the night of your life tonight, when we pull the house lights up and CL Party introduces the first matchup, blow the roof off the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium, because Randolph, it is time to start the show!
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic Worldwide After Show. We're covering episode 127 tonight. We got all the news that is news from FanCon over the next 2 weeks here on the After Show as well. If you haven't noticed, I can hear it here. I don't know if you guys know it out there, if you can hear it out there. Sound a little bit different tonight. And I have to thank Grant Sawyer for that. Grant said he was not going to be able to come on this week. Grant is indisposed. I think he's getting a tattoo or something. Wouldn't it be great if he got an official, unofficial CWF After Show tattoo? That's wishful thinking, isn't it? That's a bit much. It's a bit much. But Grant shined the bat signal in the sky and said, "Bring all your equipment down to Gibsonville." Sorry, Gibsonville. Golly. First off, let me preface this by, hey, John, how are you, man? Good to see you. I am dog tired. I went back to work at support.com this week, and it is taking the life out of me this week. Literally every night, Monday night and Tuesday night both, I was in bed by like 9 o'clock. So I'm sorry if I have a little bit more slip-ups than normal tonight. We have a lot to cover, and I am dog tired. We're going to tell a little bit of FanCon stories tonight. We're going to talk about something. I want to talk about something crazy starting off before we get into the CL Party interview. It's a weird thing. I'm sitting at work today, and we got some downtime, and I'm watching The Godfather. And I swear to God, I can't get away from the freaking wrestling business, man, and nor do I want to. But anyway, I'm watching The Godfather, and I'm sitting here. You know, I have a weird habit of once I get into a movie, I start researching the movie and how the movie was made, and I want to listen to director's commentary or whatever. But I'm sitting here watching The Godfather, and then I watch a documentary on YouTube about how the mob was actually involved in making that movie, how the mob, the actual Italian mob in New York, did not want that movie to be made. But the producer of the movie paid off the mob in New York at the time to get that movie. It's an excellent documentary, but I did not realize. And here's a name that I know a lot of you probably do not know, unless you're really familiar with the movie. Lenny Montana. If that name rings a bell to you, Lenny Montana. He was born Leonardo Passafaro. He was born March 13, 1926. He died in 92. And I found out through my research here, watching this documentary, doing a little bit of Wikipedia gimmick and everything, he actually was a real mobster that they got to play Luca Brasi. So Luca Brasi, may he rest in peace with the fishes, was a real live mobster. Not only was he a real live mobster, in this documentary, they're showing pictures of him, and he's got trunks on. It's one of those old school, early wrestling magazine posters where they're hunched down, look like they're getting ready to shoot on somebody. I'm like, all right, this son of a... They don't mention it in the documentary. I'm like, some bitch looks like a wrestler. So I do some research on this guy. And it turns out he was a professional wrestler. He was an AWA World Tag Team Champion with Hard Boiled Haggerty. He was an NWA Central States Heavyweight Champion. He was an NWA Southern Tag Team Championship, the Georgia version with Gypsy Joe. Probably his best accolade ever. He was NWA Texas Tag Team Champion with Gene Kiniski. I can't get away from this damn wrestling, I swear to God. Anyway, the reason why I sound different tonight, again, Grant shined the bat signal, bring all your equipment. I'll discuss why I had to bring my equipment next week when we have Grant Sawyer on. We're supposed to have Grant on, maybe trying to get somebody else on the after show next week. Well, we'll see how it goes. But in the process of boxing together all my equipment, because I literally brung everything I had, to the point where I think it shocked Grant a little bit, because Grant's like, I come into FanCon Friday night, and I got this huge box with me because I have full mic stands. I don't have these little rinky-dink sit-on-your-table mic stands, which I think I may end up getting them. But I have full-on musician-style mic stands. And Grant's like, holy shit. So I just start taking things out of the box. I'm like, here's what I got, Grant. Well, in the process of doing that, I've been having a crackling microphone for the last, ever since I started the after show, actually. I've had a damn XLR cable with a short in it. Well, I found an XLR cable that actually works. And in the process of finding that XLR cable, one cable can make all the difference in the world, because now I have more bass in my voice. My microphone sounds better. It's picking up a lot more here. So the after show kind of has a new life in it, thanks to Grant Sawyer for making me take inventory of every damn cord that I have. So thank you, Grant. We're going to kick things off here. We're going to go ahead. FanCon. Let me just say first off, thank you to everybody who came to FanCon. Thank you for everybody who supported FanCon. Thank you to JB, Jeremy Bryant, John Philip Habit, old Johnny P himself, man. Thank you to those two guys for having FanCon. Thank you to, I'll go ahead and say it. Thank you to Coach Gemini. He's the one that actually went to Little Italy and got the food. Damn good chicken parm, man. I told my girlfriend about this place, about the Little Italy, and it's like, we got to make a trip down there next time we go to CWF to eat at Little Italy. I want to go eat at the restaurant now. But thank you so much. I swear to God, I must have lived on Cookout for the last, for all of the weekend, because whenever I would go to get something to eat, I didn't want to drive all the way back to Danville. So I was like, fuck it, Cookout's near and Cookout's cheap. So I lived off Cookout Friday night, Saturday night. So, but I got to tell you guys, I had a blast at FanCon. I hope it continues to grow. JB, I don't know if they want this out there yet, but I'll say it. JB was telling me that they already got sponsors lined up for next year. So it looks like there is going to be a FanCon Part 2. And I hope there's a FanCon Part 2, because I loved being there. I love being around other wrestling fans. I got to meet Dan. I got to meet JB in person finally. I got to meet Super Kim from Twitter, who now apparently, if you follow Super Kim on Twitter, Food Lion boyfriend is gone. Try any shakes. No, I didn't try any milkshakes. The thing about Cookout is their milkshakes is what draws you in, but they're freaking expensive, man. You're hooked on Little Italy now. Yeah, honestly, it's the chicken parm, as far as, it's probably the best chicken parm outside of Olive Garden or wherever. They have good chicken parm though. But Little Italy, damn good chicken parm. If we have Little Italy again next year, I'll be happy, and the bread was really good too. And it was not. It wasn't bad. It was well worth the $10. So if we decide to do this next year, guys, please make sure you come for that dinner on Friday night. Little story here about FanCon here. Bruce Mitchell. Bruce probably isn't listening to this, but we'll give a shout out to Bruce Mitchell anyway. Bruce Mitchell walks in and everybody's waving at him. Doesn't make a real big deal out of it. Papa Hales walks in and everybody, hey, Papa! Everybody's standing up and greeting Papa Hales, myself included. And Bruce is like, what the fuck? I've been writing about this shit for how many years, and this guy just all of a sudden is royalty. So, Wrestling God. Something tells me Wrestling God does not have a Twitter. If he does, it would surprise me. So FanCon, we'll tell a couple more stories here about FanCon as we go along throughout the evening. And also next week. Next week is going to be a real big FanCon heavy show, I think. I want to say thank you to again, everybody who came out, all the wrestlers who came out Friday and Saturday. Mecha Mercenary, there's an interview on the channel with him. Eric Andrews, there's an interview on the channel with him that just got put up this morning. Please go listen to that interview. It will shock you. It will shock you as to how cool that man really is. Eric Andrews is a cool son of a gun, man. He's a guy that I can sit there and talk wrestling with all day, as well as other stuff. He was very well relaxed. He put a little behind the scenes here, and I even say it on the interview. He put a dip in. He starts suckers chewing tobacco right there. Put dip in tobacco right there while we're interviewing. It was very laid back, very relaxed. CL Party is sitting there for the entire interview. At one point, I don't know if she got bored or was just in wonder about this interview, because the interview went really well. It's probably, the Mecca. I'll put it to you this way: FanCon. Every interview I did at FanCon is my best work ever. I will say that without a shadow of a doubt. It's my best interview work ever. And I didn't have a single question written down. I didn't come prepared with anything that I wanted to talk about. It's all off the cuff. Anything that you hear for those FanCon interviews, and we got one more besides the CL Party one that's going to be released. I'm thinking probably next week I'll play it. And that's Mr. Eric, Eric Andrews is already released. Told you guys, I am so tired. Nick Richards is the one that has not been released yet, and Nick will. The Nick Richards interview, man, it's wind him up and watch him go. I had to interrupt him to get a word in and ask questions, because you get that guy on a microphone and you get that guy in an interview, and it's wind him up, watch the man go. He tells the story all by himself. I really didn't have to ask him much. But let's do this. Let's do this while I'm thinking about it. Let's go ahead and pay some bills here, because we got to pay homage to our sponsor. We got to pay homage to our sponsor here. And then we're going to go right into the CL Party interview. We'll see you guys back here in about 17, 18 minutes. So enjoy the interview, and please tag Johnny P's Cream of Rice. Hashtag Johnny P's Cream of Rice on Twitter. Has so much sugar, it's bound to taste nice. That's Johnny P's Cream of Rice.
Jimmy, breakfast. Oh, Dad, cereal again. Can't we get something hot and different? The next morning. Jimmy, breakfast. What's this? It's hot and tastes super sweet and sugary. Well, that's Johnny P's Cream of Rice. Has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Oh, has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Oh, Johnny P's Cream of Rice, so filled with sugar, it tastes so nice. Oh, has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Johnny P's Cream of Rice. For now, only sold north of the Mason-Dixon at a fine food store near you. Johnny P's Cream of Rice.
And we're back here from CWF Mid-Atlantic FanCon. Thank you to Johnny P and JB for putting this on for us. You just probably heard Jerry Carey, and he said it's a lot of fun shooing this girl away, but nobody likes the fact that he shoos this girl away every single time she goes to announce the All-Stars, and that's Miss CL Party. How are you doing, CL?
I am so excited to be here at FanCon. Just got done with our panel, and yeah, it's really great.
Didn't like putting on makeup at 8 o'clock in the morning, though, did we?
No, we did not.
Well, you were here briefly last night, and then you went. I'm assuming you went home and got a good night's sleep. I didn't get home till like 2 a.m. and then was back up at 7 editing. So, talk a little bit about this experience. A year ago, I'm sitting there going, there's no way FanCon is ever happening if I was to look back. What is this whole experience with the worldwide era and the way it has just taken off? What has this been like for you? Because now you're seen not just locally, you're seen nationally.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to forget that sometimes because I don't really travel like a lot of other people do. So to me, it's still just like, oh, I'm just coming to the wrestling building right around the corner from where I live and doing my thing. And, I do watch it and everything, but I forget. And something like this really reminds me like, oh my gosh, people are watching this and people know who I am and, getting to do the TNA TNA thing and people actually recognizing me and stuff. And I mean, I talked about it on Twitter. My very first independent show that I went to, I flew like a ridiculous amount of miles, and I was so excited to be there. And the fact that people are doing that to come, I mean, obviously not just for me, but to come see a show that I'm on is just like, it's crazy to me to wrap my head around.
Talk a little bit. We talked a little bit before when you were on about the TNA thing. Do you get more recognition off of that, or do you get more recognition off of this?
No, Betty Sue was very much my 15 minutes. It was here and now it's gone. I don't think. I mean, like occasionally people will post a meme or see the video and be like, "Oh my gosh, is that CL Party with Jeff Hardy?" and stuff like that. But it's pretty much died down. I don't think anybody remembers her.
You mentioned you were just doing a panel, and you mentioned where your probably your least favorite moment is getting super kicked in the face.
Yes.
And I watched that again recently, and I thought you took it real well. What was going through your head that night when they came up to you and said, "Okay, you're going to start off this match, and you're going to get kicked"? And you mentioned on the panel here that you know how to take a bump, but you're not trained
Right.
all the way. What was going through your mind? Can you tell us your memories of that night, and what was, because I'm assuming if they came up to me my first time, like if Grant were to come up to me and go, "Hey, Joe, they want to super kick you while you're doing the podcast," I'd freak the hell out. I wouldn't know what to do.
Well, that's actually not how it happened. So originally it was supposed to be just a normal matchup, right? And I don't know if you were regularly watching back then or anyone listening was, Cedric and I always had that kind of, he always hated me and, he would always mess with me. And there's that interview that was on Images of, "Have you seen YouTube? You see what I do to white women? Get out of my face." And, so he was always kind of threatening me and everything. So we knew that was going to be his last match, before he went on to bigger and better things. And he and I were just kind of goofing off in the locker room. And I was like, "Oh, Cedric, I saw you got, the lumbar check on another one. Like, haha, shouldn't you get me?" And he'd like got that look.
He got that
and
look
I was like, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have said that."
Don't give him any ideas.
Yeah. So he went to Brad, or actually, see, and I think Brad is the one who said, like, because Brad was sitting there too, and Brad was like, "You want to take out another white woman on your way out?" And so Cedric was like, "Heck yes." So, but the problem was, by the time we were having that conversation, it was already during the show. So we were in the locker room, and I was like, "Look, guys, I'm not comfortable taking this if I can't practice it because that is not something."
I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I put on there after I first saw that match, but blue became my favorite color. You weren't exactly dressed for that either.
Well, stuff like that I don't really care about. I almost always wear shorts. I mean, like, they were short, obviously, but I almost always wear shorts under just in case, getting in and out of the ring, you're going to flash people. So I almost always wear shorts under my dress anyway. And I mean, to me, that makes it more realistic, so I don't really care about stuff like that.
That's very old school, though. It's very Attitude Era-ish, because if that was to happen during the Attitude Era, you'd have on a much shorter skirt.
Yeah, no, I really think about, like, Beulah and ECW and counting down and flashing everybody, so I don't really care about that.
I mean, I don't mean to, people are going to say this and be like, "Joe Wipes a creep," but I'm just sitting there bringing up this fact because it was so spontaneous.
Yeah.
The spontaneity of it,
right.
In that, you're like, "Hey, I live around the corner. Should I go home and change for this? Should I go pick something different to wear?" It's...
Yeah. Well, that show was actually in Thomasville. That wasn't in this building, so I
Okay.
couldn't have gone home and changed. So, but like I said, the show had already started, and I was like, and like you mentioned, I am trained. I know how to take a bump. I've taken a few moves, but I'd never taken anything like that. And they were trying to explain it to me, and I was just like, I don't
Just
know.
kick back.
So, Kazi. Yeah, Kazi was actually back there. And actually, I think Cedric was the one who came up with it and said, "Well, how about I super kick you?" And I was like, "Perfect, I can do that." And I was like, so nervous about it because, I'm not a wrestler. And I was like, "Well, how exactly should I do it? Should I take a full-on bump?" Because there is also, this exists on YouTube, unfortunately. One time I was managing Nick Richards against Donnie Dollars on a random show. I don't even remember the name of the company.
Right.
And I had to take a body slam from Donnie Dollars, and it's the worst thing I've ever done. He literally picked me up and just laid me down. And so I was like, gosh, okay, I'm not doing something like that again. So I really wanted to know, like, how should I do it? So we kind of came up with it together. Kamikaze Kid is, he's always helped me every single time I have to do something. This time last year with the Rumble, when we had those invaders and I had to work with Riley Madison, I was like, "Tell me what to do." He's always really good at calming me down. And so we kind of came up with the idea of, they were like, "Just fall. Just, like,
Just fall.
You're getting kicked.
That's what Brad does when Brad takes a bump.
Right. So I was like, okay.
You ever seen Brad take a bump?
Oh,
You
yeah.
see Brad take a bump. It's like he just falls. Just do what Brad does.
Yeah, and I'm sure you haven't seen this, but there's an episode of America's Next Top Model. It's very iconic where a girl fainted during the judging. And I kind of was thinking of that of like, okay, her eyes kind of roll into the back of her head before she goes. And so I was so nervous out there. I mean, actually, the magic of Grant Sawyer, as I always talk about, he edited it out, but I actually screwed up the introduction the first time I did it. I was like, the fellow, I was like, okay, let me start again, because I was just so nervous. And of course, everyone doesn't realize that. They're just like, oh gosh, she's just whatever. So then that was kind of a bonus for the crowd because it kind of gave them a reason, like, because I had screwed up, they thought that he super kicked me because I had screwed up his intro. It was actually supposed to be that he was going to kick me, take the mic, and be like, how dare you introduce him before me, blah, blah, blah. But it was so hot, they just started going and wrestling around me, which was not planned. And then White Mike was supposed to come out and save me. And again, Grant Sawyer's magic. It looks like he comes right out. He did not. So I was laying there for a while. And then, of course, nobody knew we were going to do this. It was between me and Cedric and, Chet. Brad Stutz knew it. The referee, Kevin Pierce, had no idea.
Oh, my God.
So he kept, trying, Cedric was like, take my title. And, Kevin was kind of like, he didn't know what was going on. So when it happened, he freaked out. So it was really great,
Do you wish that they would have smartened him up on it?
No.
No?
No, I loved it because it looked real. And, I mean, kids were crying and stuff. And I remember somebody told me, because then I had to go in the locker room. Obviously, I can't come out again. I've been kicked in the face. And someone told me they were in the bathroom and heard these kids going like, man, I think he really kicked her. I know wrestling's fake, but I think that shit was real. So, I am actually very proud of that.
When you hear that, though, it's got to be a reaction of, we fucking got him.
Yeah.
We got him. That's real. It's...
Yeah, I love doing stuff like that. And then, of course, like I mentioned, I haven't actually gotten to do that much, but things like that or, the Rumble last year with Riley Madison and stuff like that, I love, and that's what I talked about on the panel, I don't want to be a wrestler, but I want to train because I want to be able to do stuff like that, and it makes it more realistic.
You mentioned on the panel that part of the reason why you are not training as much anymore is children.
Right.
You have a kid. You and Josh have a daughter, and it's like, how do you? I know from my perspective, I had to finally smarten my kid up. Mm-hmm. Does she know it's?
No, she doesn't.
Wow.
There was actually. So her favorite wrestler is Nick Richards.
Okay.
She just loves him. Anytime you're watching a CWF Worldwide episode and it's a Nick Richards match and you hear some kid going crazy in the background, that is my stepdaughter Alana going, Nick. And there was actually one time she tried to get in the ring and save him during a show. And see, things like that. So she doesn't really come to shows that much anymore. And, it's hard finding that balance because obviously everyone now thinks I'm like some absentee parent because my kid's crawling around in the ring when, I'm in the locker room. I can't do anything about it. We try to have people watch her, but everyone here has a job, My friend Beth, she's the concession girl. So she tries to watch her, but, so it's
You can't
hard.
hire a nanny to come to the show.
Right, exactly. And like I said, she is my stepdaughter. So, her mom gets a visitation. So we try to plan things around that. But it just became too much. I was trying to go to practice every week, every Sunday. And that's when Josh was working a different job that had a lot of crazy hours, so we weren't getting to spend that much time together, and it was too much. I was spread too thin. I was training really hard, going every week, I loved it, and then we had to get emergency custody of her, and I kind of had to go from being this free single do whatever, and now I'm a mom, you know what I mean? And so that's why that happened.
I know what that's like because for me, with my son, I didn't see him for 2 years, and I lived on the road as a truck driver. I didn't have no responsibility whatsoever.
Right.
And then, thank you for being so candid. You didn't have to. But, balancing my kid, I always tell the story. My kid went to school and started hitting kids.
Right.
And started wanting to play wrestling. And I finally had to sit him down and go, stuff's not real. They're not even hitting each other. In fact, I took him to a show in Pelham. And Pelham, North Carolina, and I talked to one of the wrestlers. I was like, "Can you explain to him a little bit about what you guys do?" I said, "I know you don't want to break kayfabe, but he has to know."
Right.
So, for you and Josh not to smarten her up a little amazes me.
Well, obviously we're friends with a lot of wrestlers and everything, and they keep it up around her. So, like I said, she loves Nick Richards. She hates Kamikaze Kid.
Really?
Because of their big feud and everything. And even to this day, and when she found out that the guy who comes to our house without a mask is that guy that was under that mask that was beating up Nick Richards. Oh my gosh, she didn't talk to me for like 2 days.
She was smartened up a little bit then as to...
Yeah, I mean, she found out like, oh wait a minute. But she said, oh, that's Kazi. How dare you let him in this house? I was like, I'm sorry, Alana.
Talk a little bit about your style. Rule number 1 of the after show, speaking of Kazi.
Here he comes.
Here he comes. Coming out of the locker room. Yeah, man.
So much shit.
She's burying you over here, buddy. Anyway, rule number 1 of the after show is thou must put over CL Party. And I put you over week after week, time after time, for a reason. You are not, and they were talking a little bit about it on the panel, and I wanted to ask a question, but I'm saving it for this. You are not Promobot 3000. And I think it's very good that you're not Promobot 3000. I never want you to go to WWE for that very reason, because you will lose that. Talk about, do you prepare at all for what's going to happen in that ring, besides, like, obviously the super kick and how to react to that, but interview-wise? They tell you, hey, you're going to interview A, B, and C and do X, Y, Z. We want you to hit bullet points, obviously. But when you're backstage interviewing people, you put over something on Twitter last week's Worldwide from Chapel Hill that it was unprofessional. And I akin it to somebody breaking up on SNL.
Right.
You know, you go back and watch Jimmy Fallon. Jimmy Fallon some weeks couldn't hold a straight face on SNL. And they edited it so well that you couldn't tell everybody was breaking up. But me, it's like I wanted to see that. I want to see people laughing at baby faces or even laughing at Cutshaw or somebody like that. Do you prepare at all for anything that's going to happen interview-wise?
I don't really get the opportunity to prepare because I'm always the last person to know what's going on, because I'm, you know, as far as, you know, they obviously Brad and Grant come up with things. They tell, you know, Danny and Jeff, and then they tell the wrestlers, and then sometimes I'll get, hey, you're doing this tonight, but for the most part, no. And honestly, usually it'll just be like, hey, where's CL? Grab her, let's interview so-and-so. And, you know, sometimes they'll say like, hey, we want you to hit these points, and sometimes it's just, hey, just interview this person. You know, Kane is a really good example of that. When he first started, it was kind of like, you're going to interview Kane, and they would talk to both of us and say, we want you to hit this point and this point, and I would kind of help him with that. And, you know, he used to do a million takes. He's going to kill me when he hears this, but it would take forever to get it out of him. And now we're just so comfortable with each other, and obviously he is not lacking any confidence that he can just kind of roll them out, and we just play so well off each other that they'll just be like, okay, you know, Kane and CL, do your thing, or you know, things like that. So it really just depends on who it is.
You mentioned having to do multiple takes. Would you consider yourself a perfectionist when it comes to interviews now? Is there something where, can you name a time where you wanted to do retakes and it was just you could not get it down to where you were like, look, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is there are points where Grant and Stutzy are saying, yeah, that's fine, but you're sitting there going, no, it wasn't. Let's do it over.
There's been a couple times. It's actually kind of funny that I did get into this role because I am such a mumbler and I mix up my words so much. I am in real life, yes. And the other thing too is I naturally, as a kid, had a really, really thick Southern accent that I fought my whole life to fight.
Well, you were on the show before. You said you grew up in what, Florida? I think it was. Okay.
Yeah, so I got made fun of because my mom's from Charleston, so she had a real Southern accent, and so I got made fun of in Florida. So I kind of like had to fight to counteract that. And the funny thing is, when I moved here to North Carolina, Nick Richards, the first night he met me, he was like, "Are you from Canada?" Because I like overcompensated so much. And now, of course, I've been living in North Carolina for 5 years. It's kind of slipping back, and you know, I get like Josh makes fun of me because he knows I hate it. So if I say something with a little Southern twang, but that's something that I try to practice because I want to speak clearly and be professional. So things like that I practice. But you know, if they tell me like, "Oh, you're interviewing so and so," I'm not like, "Oh gosh, what am I gonna do?" Because usually they already know what they're gonna do.
Right.
And then yeah, just times that I've messed up. But Grant is. He's just a fun person to work with. Usually not at the time because he's kind of scary, but he is really good at, he's basically trained me to the point where he can tell me like, "Hey, do this," and I'll do it. And we're very much a good team in that pretty much it only takes us one take. And now it's like, oh, it's the wrestlers that are messing up, not me.
Well, I think the babyface panel just ended. We were only supposed to go 10 minutes. We've gone 15. So thank you very much for coming back on the show. Thank you for being so candid.
Yeah,
when you
anytime.
didn't have to. And yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. Please don't ever turn into Promobot 3000.
I won't.
It's getting to the point. It's gotten to the point where I can remember your name, but I can't. Except for Renee Young, I can't not remember a single backstage interviewer in WWE women-wise because they all look the same. They all speak the same. You're definitely the exception to the rule.
Well, I appreciate that.
Rule
Thank you
number
very
one,
much.
commandment number one will always be followed as long as you're around. So thank you so much.
I very much appreciate that. Thank you.
And we'll be back with more here from FanCon, ladies and gentlemen. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My little short interview with CL Party. It's weird because she was the second person I interviewed, Jerry Carey being the first, which we got some Jerry Carey on tonight's episode. It was exciting to see him. I was trying to keep it to the 10-minute time limit, but I noticed that I was the only one there interviewing individuals. The other podcaster that was there was doing the panels. And my opinion on this was, if you wanted to see those panels, you had to be there. The panels were something that you had to be there for. So I came in early there, and I just started setting stuff up. And I just started, Johnny P was like, I could get you heels first. I could get you baby faces first. So I was like, get me Jerry Carey. Jerry Carey was the first person I saw. We did our interview, and then I was like, okay, the babyface panel just ended. Let's get CL. And then I didn't even rely on Johnny P called me a beast in a ways, because Johnny P was like, dude, you were a beast at just grabbing people, because I would grab people as I'd see them. Eric Andrews actually came up to me after I interviewed, I believe it was after I interviewed Mecca. And Mecca was just so fun to interview, guys. Go back and listen to that. Go back and listen to that Eric Andrews interview. That Eric Andrews interview has not gotten as many views as I would have liked it to, and it deserves as many views as all the other interviews. So share that interview, please. That interview is so good. I can't decide which interview I liked more, the Mecca interview or the Eric Andrews interview. I can't really decide. If you asked me to pick a favorite out of anybody I interviewed this past weekend, I'd tell you, I can't. I just can't. But I was grabbing people left and right. And Johnny P, towards the end of the day, he goes, dude, you don't need my help. Just go get him. You're a beast. So I just started grabbing people. And that was my job there, man. My job was to sit there and interview people. I wish to God I could have gotten to a lot more people than I did. Me and Mecca sat there for an hour. And then me and Eric sat there for an hour. And the Eric Andrews interview, we'll get into it a little bit more here when we get into episode 127. Let's get into episode 127, shall we? The Royal Rumble Undercard. This is episode 127 of CWF Worldwide Mid-Atlantic. Your commentators, of course, are Cecil, Cease and Desist Scott, and Brad Stutz. We kick things off with Deja Vu. And that we got the recreation of the Battlecade X7 entrances with the Dirty Daddy and Kane Justice. It was crazy. I kind of was spoiled on the Kane Justice interview there, or on the Kane Justice entrance, because earlier in the day I overheard somebody asking Kane if he's got the dojo guys coming, and they said they were. And then we're standing there waiting to get into the building later on in the day, and the dojo guys, all three of the dojo guys, pull up with their gear and go inside the arena to get dressed or whatever the case may be. So I kind of knew that was happening. I did not expect the Dirty Daddy's entrance, with the Elvis bit. I didn't expect that. And then we got the very lovely rule number one must always be adhered to. CL Party looking very, very, very beautiful. My God, does she look beautiful. Kane is heavily booed here, which is a shocker. I got to say, there is no Mama Justice in the crowd for the next two shows. So, and I no disrespect to Mama Justice here, but I think that was a good thing. Honestly, I think it was a good thing. I noted here, Kane had that haircut, man, that damn, it's nothing but his bangs pulled back and he's shaved, and he kind of looked like Kane's dad putting him over again. Hey, that's my son, or as Dusty Rhodes would say, my son. Anyway, me and Kane kind of joked about that all weekend. I think Kane hates that, but it's got to stick here. It's got to stick. I put here Kane with that haircut with his ponytail pulled back. He reminded me of Tong Po for the movie Kickboxer. It's what he looked like. Of course, we had our usual nickname, Cecil, Ceased and Desist Scott. And that was actually spoiled for me too, because if you came to night 1 of FanCon, Brad actually was talking with the with Cecil, and he's like, "That's going to be your name tomorrow, Cecil Cease and Desist Scott." So we got that, and we got Kane's 1 year in the biz. This was kind of like his 1 year anniversary show because he debuted at the Rumble last year. A lot of good wrestling up front. Kane going for the arm early. Kane hitting the sling blade early. We got a cover, but Kane is in the ropes. And afterwards followed up with a huge kick to Dirty Daddy's head. They pointed out that Dirty Daddy is dedicating the match to Lance Russell, which I thought was a nice touch. Daddy is sending Kane into the ring post and then backdrops him on the apron. I don't know if it was this match or one of the matches here on this undercard, but there was a comment. I'll go ahead and spoil it in case it is in the Rumble. So spoiler warning if you don't want to be spoiled. I don't know if they edited it out of commentary. It may be coming. It's probably coming next week. Somebody takes an apron bump, and you got this whole thing with Evolve going on with them sending out with Gabe sending out emails talking about no apron bumps, no neck bumps, blah blah blah. And Brad Stutz, somebody took an apron bump at the Rumble, and Brad is like, some promotions will actually send out emails telling their workers not to do those types of moves. And as he's saying this, I'm sitting there right next to the commentary table for reasons which I will explain next week. Bruce Mitchell is sitting right in front of me. Pro Wrestling Torch senior columnist Bruce Mitchell. And me and him just crack up. And he looks back at me, and he's like nodding, and I'm looking back at him, and I'm like, "Hi, Gabe." And he just starts busting out laughing. So it was a kind of, there were several moments throughout the night where the commentators would look at me and Bruce, and then we would look at them and give them a nod. And, especially in the Rumble. There's one part in the Rumble where me and Brad locked eyes, and I was just fanboying, but I'll get into that next week. We got the RGL tournament is going to be on Worldwide. We found out through that. I'm glad to see that, man. I like the RGL show from a couple weeks back. Curious to see if Alley Cat's going to be in the RGL tournament. I think she should be. But anyway. We got the Buddy Landell elbow by Dirty Daddy, and I like the commentary. Stutzy beautifully calls that, and Kane and Cecil looks at him and goes, "Yeah, that's right." Like, damn, I can't believe he called that, because we know that Cecil's usually the one that calls the moves. Stutzy and Cecil's a little bit of backstage, or not backstage, but a little bit of a side note here. Brad Stutz and Cecil Scott's voice I was actually third row. For those who don't know, there is a chat room here. So if you're listening to us here on YouTube, or if you're even listening to the archive, you got to listen to us live each and every week. There's a chat room where we communicate with each other, and the whole CWF community just has fun talking to each other in there. And I interact with y'all as much as I can here during the show. Cecil Scott and Brad Stutz's voice is literally shot by the end of this match. It's slowly breaking down because they're having to yell over the crowd. Stutzy's headset is not working properly, so he can't hear what Cecil's saying. He can hear Cecil, but he can't hear his own voice. And if for anybody who's ever worn headsets like I am now, I can't really tell how loud I'm speaking, except for the little bitty meter that's over here on my soundboard tells me how high my voice is hitting. So Brad can't see the meter because he doesn't have access to the soundboard, and he can't hear his own voice. Like again, anybody who's done radio knows that when you talk like I am right now, I can hear my own voice in my head, like through my headset. So Brad couldn't hear his own voice. That combined with the fact that all he's hearing is Cecil, and he's hearing that loud as hell crowd. Both of them, their voices were shot by the end of the first match, to the point where there is, how do I say this? I wanted to say this next week. I'll put it to you this way. There is some alternate commentary of this show that will never see the light of day. So, and I'll tell you why next week. But on the alternate commentary, Brad and Cecil are like, we're never going to make it through this show. It's not going to happen. Our voices are going to be shot. Me and Bruce are looking at both of them, are sitting there nodding at them, and I'm sitting there going, y'all both are going to lose your voices, man. I wish to God I would have had like a cough drop or something to give those guys, because they did a fantastic job. The commentary that you're about to hear for the Rumble next week is by far the best commentary probably for any wrestling show I've ever watched. Those two are that good. They putting over the fact that Kane's back is injured and that his back is hurting him throughout the whole match. Daddy misses the sling blade. And then after he misses a sling blade, Kane goes with the Piper eye poke, the Roddy Piper eye poke. Hits a big knee. Hits the TBD, which, of course, if you were at night one of FanCon, Brad Stutz let it be known that he was definitely going to call it by name, and he did. It's the Teabag Driver. Daddy then hits 2 brain busters for the win, and he is now a 2-time Rising Generation League champion. And I will say this, foreshadowing. I love this match. This match, man, the crowd was just so red hot all freaking night. I mean, it's probably one of the hottest wrestling crowds I've ever been to. This and Battlecade, man, I can't decide which was hotter. I want to say this one, because the promotion has gained so much momentum over the last 10 months, 11 months. It was mind-boggling how loud that building was. So Dirty Daddy's your 2-time RGL champion, shedding a little tears, soaking it all in. And I got to say, man, ever since Dirty Daddy kind of broke up from Snooty Fox, he's deserved another shot at the title. I'm curious to see how he's probably going to carry, in my opinion, which we know how right my booking can be on this show. We got a kind of a little taste of how right I was with the Rumble. I think I outdid myself with the Rumble, I would say. As far as my who the final, I didn't get the Final Four right, but man, I put in that name, and I go back and listen to it last week. Nobody expected it, and I was beaming at the end of that Rumble. I was smiling so much at the end of that Rumble. But we then got to the back. Little alternate commentary note here. Brad Stutz actually flubbed his line. He said that they were throwing it to CL Party. They then did the re-record saying we're going to throw it to Jerry Carey in the back, and then in the final cut of it, that audio was dropped completely, and we just went from Dirty Daddy's title celebration right to Jerry Carey, and I liked it better that way. Jerry Carey, for those of you who want to get a little bit of behind the scenes peek at Jerry Carey and learn how he started in the wrestling business, it's a really hell of a story. We got an interview with Jerry Carey up on the channel right now in the archives, so go check that out. It's actually the first interview I conducted at FanCon, besides that night one panel, and it's the first interview I posted. I believe I posted that on Sunday, so go check that out. Jerry Carey, man, one of the nicest guys. Honestly, he's a hell of a heel, but in real life, he's one of the nicest guys I ever had the pleasure of speaking with. Everybody was just so nice this past weekend. He's interviewing Ethan Alexander Sharp, Dr. Daniel C. Rockingham, and Frankie Flynn, the Prince of Broadway, in the back. Good promo by Sharpie. Dr. Dan is just always over, and Frankie Flynn is so good. I always enjoy seeing Flynn in the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium. He's got his Back to the Future Cup there. And then we cut right to their match. They're going up against Ian Maxwell, KL3, and Bobby Ballantyne. KL3 and Ian Maxwell make up the Top Shelf guys, I believe it is, or Top Shelf boy. Yeah, it's Top Shelf guys. KO continues to impress me here. The Rising Generation League, they've kind of opened up the Rising Generation League. It's not just open to dojo members, as we found out. We got people from other promotions coming in for that RGL title, and I think it's needed. I think that's needed. Whether it's just because not many young guys are training at the dojo, or maybe because it's giving guys from other territories a chance to come in. Again, CWF has always had that territory-esque vibe, and this just adds to it for me. we got later on in the match, we got a spear through the ropes by Flynn, which was really well done. Ethan Alexander Sharp, I think this is like the second or third match in a row where he does those Al Snow underhook headbutts, and they're just so good. Sharp continues to impress me each and every week. I wish I had the chance to interview him. Crazy thing about Ethan Alex Sharp, I kind of, he showed up to FanCon and stayed in full gimmick with the smoking jacket, the tights, and everything the whole time FanCon was there. If he was in that building, he was in gimmick. So that was kind of crazy. We got a backdrop by Ballantyne, but it's funny. It's crazy. At one point in the match, Dr. Dan was way over coming into this match. A lot of people were excited to see Dr. Dan Rockingham in the Sportatorium this weekend. He has a cravat hold on Ballantyne. Ballantyne goes for a backdrop, but Dr. Dan still has the cravat, and he uses that cravat to drag Ballantyne over to his corner, the heel corner. He bashes Ballantyne's head into the top turnbuckle while he still has the cravat on. I've never seen that before. And then proceeds to make a tag. Dr. Dan right now, to me, he just continues to impress. I'd wish they book him more often. Dr. Dan then, let's see here. Dr. Dan hits the soul foot on and then says, good night, change your life, and sends the babyface into the turnbuckles, then hits the positive affirmation. It flubs, but they still get the win. There was a couple missed spots during the match. The second half of the match live really fell flat. It's RGL, though. Got to give him a pass at this one. Everybody worked hard in this match. Ballantyne continues to impress me. Dr. Dan continues to impress me. Every time Ethan hits that damn bus driver, uppercut, it's just awesome. I hope all six of these guys. Well, Ethan's not RGL eligible anymore, as he noted on Twitter tonight. But I hope to God that we see at least all these guys, except for Ethan, because Ethan's not eligible. But we need to see the other 5 in the RGL tournament, in my opinion. And then we went out back of the Sportatorium after this match. Anybody ever wondered what the backside of the Sportatorium looks like? There it is. It's a loading dock. CL Party is with the Dawsons. It was a good promo. CL Party, of course, selling her ass off here, just really, really paying attention, soaking it all in, and is never a promo bot 3000. We then got the Sandwich Squad. I want to let you guys know that one half of the Sandwich Squad, Mecha Mercenary, again, sat down with me for about an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour. That interview is here on the channel. He talks about how the Sandwich Squad was formed, him teaming up with Michael McAllister, him having shoulder surgery and coming back from that, and how the booking changed. We even get into a little bit of comic book talk and Walking Dead talk. So it's a very good interview. It's probably, I'll say it's one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. Good camera work here. I got to put Grant over here. Good camera work by Grant. We see the baby faces looking out of the door of the Sportatorium thinking that the Sandwich Squad are going to go that way. We, of course, know that they're not, because if you watch the interview beforehand, they're out back. So they kind of foreshadowed this a little. Again, brilliant storytelling here in CWF. Grant's in the ring. He's focused hard on those guys, so you don't get to see the heels, the Dawsons come up back with a chair. We got a nacho cheese chant again here in the Sportatorium. They cart Mecha Mercenary off after the chair shot. He can't go anymore, apparently, and it's Aaron Biggs taking on the Dawsons by himself. Biggs has excellent facial expressions. Aaron Biggs continues to impress me more and more and more every single time I see him. We got the Dawsons go for a cover at one point after hitting a move, and Biggs kick out. And the thing that stands in my mind is I'm hearing out my left ear, because, again, I'm watching the match and I can hear the commentary live. I hear Brad Stutz go, Biggs is staying alive in this one. And me and Bruce Mitchell just give him the look right at the same time. Bruce is giving him a look like, really? And I'm smiling because I'm like, that's a good fucking line right there. So it didn't get over with Bruce as much as it got over with me. I like here the steel-toed. I wouldn't be surprised if the Dawsons had loaded boots, the steel-toed boots. You don't get that anymore in wrestling at all anymore, man. So it's so good. The commentary, I can't put these guys over enough for this show because they were losing their voices were, oh man, kudos to these guys. I like how Biggs, at one point in the match, right before Mecha Mercenary came back, Biggs reaches for his corner like he's tagging. A little bit of instinct there, and I feel like the commentators, they probably missed it. But I missed it live. I mean, it's, again, another reason why you got to watch the YouTube show as well as be at the Sportatorium live every time they run in a show. RGL show is this Saturday night. It's a Halloween show. Be sure to check it out. But he reaches for the corner out of instinct and then realizes, oh, crap, Mecha's not there. He's so used to Mecha being there. He's so used to making that tag. It's psychology. It's storytelling. It's what I love about this damn promotion. Mecha finally comes back. They try to get the hero sandwich, but no, we get a lariat by Zane Dawson instead. And then, a huge superplex right there with Biggs and Zane off the top. Huge, oh God, of course, by Brad Stutz. And the ref starts the 10 count. And he gets to 10, but Biggs cannot get his fingertip. All he had to do was get a fingertip on Zane Dawson, and he couldn't do it. The referee hits 10. The crowd starts chanting for 5 more minutes, but me and Bruce is sitting there going, why the fuck are they chanting 5 more minutes? It's a double count-out. You can't give them 5 more minutes and a double count-out. So the match ends in a double count-out. The Dawson brothers are still their Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions. Grant capturing, this is where I could see the world-class influence on CWF because Grant is right there with the camera. And you get that conversation between Mecha and Aaron right before they rise up. Are you okay, brother? Are you okay? Man, I couldn't get my finger on him. It was so good. That match, the ending of that match to me and the angle itself, I mean, if you want to call it an angle at the end, would not be what it was without Grant having that camera in the ring, in their faces, capturing that bit of audio. And again, kudos to the Sandwich Squad, Mecha and Biggs, for storytelling, being in character. Dare say acting. It's just, wrestling has a little bit of acting involved, and these two guys just, they're battered, they're beaten up, especially Biggs after this match. And they're still thinking of storylines. They're still thinking of their character. They're still thinking of telling a story. It's beautiful. I'm curious to see what we have here next with these two teams. I think you have to put them in a cage. I want these these 4 guys in a cage so goddamn bad. I think it would be awesome. That's what I have written down here. I want to see I have cage next because I want to see these 2 in a cage. or even double dog collar match. Something. It needs a stipulation now if these two teams are going to continue going at it. It's definitely not over yet. The impression that I got, again, it's an indie fed, so booking, you got to book them when you can, if you can. But the impression I get and the story that I think that they're trying to convey here is that we're going to get a stipulation next that is pinfall or submission only. We have to get that. There's no way they could do a normal match again. It needs a stipulation here. We then got, it's funny, the Chastity Taylor come have your birthday party at the Sportatorium deal aired next. And usually I fast forward a little bit through that promo, and I didn't this week, and I couldn't help but notice that on the chairs behind her were sticky notes, which tells me that this was filmed right before a show was about to go on. I never noticed that before. We then had Eric Andrews with Lee Valiant coming out. And they're coming out and, they're about to, have Papa Hales pick from the bucket. And Eric's like, no. And he looks at DeValiant and he goes, where is she? Go tell her to get her ass out here. And, of course, he goes in the back and drags CL Party out. And We got a CL party chant finally in the Sportatorium. I've been waiting for that. We finally got a CL party chant, and she looked so happy to get it. It was awesome. And the thing from the ring introduction, we get this overly drawn out ring introduction, and the thing that I took away from it the most here is when she's introducing Lee Valiant. She goes, "Lee Valiant is a lost Von Erich and Fritz's favorite." So that just made me. I didn't even hear that live because that building was so loud that night, and there was so much energy in that building that was kind of hard to hear the microphone at times there. So yeah, apparently Lee Valiant is the lost Von Erich and Fritz's favorite. CL sells it so well. We're reading this. Papa Hales picks out the envelope. And this is the second time this year Papa Hales has gotten to pick out of that damn bucket. I'm kind of jealous. Papa Hales pulls out, of course, the returning Jesse Adler, who makes his official return to the Sportatorium on Worldwide. Adler comes out to Panama, of course, by Van Halen. Valiant then proceeds to jump Adler. They're stomping him in the corner. Then they get him on the, Cecil Scott calls Lee a bag of piss, which I thought was funny as hell. Lee is holding Adler on the outside up against the ropes. Eric goes to hit him. Adler ducks. He ends up taking out Lee Valiant. 540 kick by Adler. Standing shooting star press. Eric is just selling everything so good. And in 10 seconds, we got a new television champion. Randy Hendrick, the ring announcer. He is so damn good with this. That for me, the best part of the win was Randy putting, Randy's announcement at the end, the official word at the end. And I'm sitting here thinking, as this match happened, I am dumbfounded. I am, this baffled me to no end. I was not expecting this. I was kind of marking out, and then I'm sitting here going, I just interviewed this son of a gun 3 or 4 hours ago, and one of the questions I asked him is, who does he think they're going to get to take this title off of him from a booking standpoint? And me and him can't think of anybody. We both can't think of anybody. And I wasn't expecting Adler. And to tell you the truth, part of me sits there and questions this because Adler has just come back from an injury, which I know to a lot of people makes it 10 times better, but to me, it's like this guy was just competing for the Rising Generation League title and all that, and now he's, TV champion, surprise, I'm back after a year. But I liked it. I talked to Eric Andrews after the event, and I was like, dude, if I'd known, me and Eric actually had another lengthy conversation afterwards. I honestly, man, I could have talked to Eric Andrews that whole fan con. It would have been awesome. Eric's a cool dude. He's probably gonna hate that because he's real big into people booing him and everything. But I gotta call it like I see it. I enjoyed interviewing the man. I talked to him, and he may not want me saying this, but I talked to him afterwards. A little behind the scenes stuff here. I talked to him afterwards. I was like, dude, if I'd known then what I know now, I would have said Adler. And he's like, I didn't know. He goes, after you interviewed me, I went in the locker room and they told me. I was like, holy shit, that's just freaking crazy to me. Like, here we are interviewing each other. And then I'm sitting there, of course, me being the paranoid son of a gun I am, going, did I ask him something wrong? Did he say something wrong? Because Stutzy has a cameo in that interview. Go listen to that interview. I wanted to interview Brad, and I asked Brad, come on, sit in the chair beside me, and he's like, no, because Brad doesn't like to do interviews. Brad doesn't like to do podcasts. So I asked him during the interview with Eric, I asked him, hey, Stutzy, and he's like, no. And I'm like, I just want to ask you one question. It pertains to Eric. And he's like, no. And Eric's kind of chuckling, and I was like, I was going to ask him, what was Stutzy's reaction when Eric came to them and said he was fed up with his current position in the company a couple years back. And I guess Stutzy heard that because Stutzy then comes over and I asked the question. And so go listen to that interview if you want to get Stutzy's answer, because it's really telling from a booking standpoint. It's really telling from a talent standpoint. And you may not think shit like that goes on the indie scene, but it does, and it did, and it led to very good things for him. I'll put over Eric Andrews again. Eric Andrews has made that TV title mean something in the last year. Really. There was a time when the Rising Generation League title meant more than that TV title, and now Eric Andrews is kind of, I think, at least for me, he's elevated that within the last year and kind of, you heard the crowd reaction tonight on Worldwide. That crowd came unglued when he finally lost the belt. And that's exactly what Eric Andrews' job was. To be a sniveling little weasel heel, to find a loophole and everything, to cheat when he can, and carry that title, and carry that title, and carry that title, so that when you least expect it, here comes the young gun to lose it, and it just makes it mean that much more. He sold it so well after he lost it. Him and Valiant both. What an episode of Worldwide, guys. And guess what? Next week we got the Rumble. And man, it's a hell of a Rumble, guys. If you weren't there live, and if you're listening to the after show here, I'm telling you, you're gonna want to watch that episode of Worldwide next week with that Rumble. It's probably the best battle. Well, there's no doubt about it. It's the best Rumble match I've ever seen. It's the best Royal Rumble style match I've ever seen. It's the best Battle Royal I've ever seen. And CL Party put on images tonight that, or put on Twitter tonight that the images of the year is going to be like 9 hours long because they're giving us such good stuff this year. And I'm like, well, with the FanCon stuff, it's 10. if you put pictures that were taken at FanCon, 10. It's 10 hours long. Again, I got to put over everybody at CWF Mid-Atlantic this week. Thank you for opening up, the doors to the Sportatorium to us. Thank you for making your talent so accessible to the talent. Thank you for making yourselves so accessible to us. And I hope to do it again next year. That's all I'm going to say. I really hope to do it again next year. That's going to do it for the after show this week, folks, unless there's anything here in the chat room that you guys want to talk about or discuss. I want to thank you guys so much for listening this week. Next week is going to be even better, man, because we got at least an hour-long episode. Well, it's at least an hour long next week. The Rumble was all right. Oh, bullshit. That Rumble was great. From a fan point of view, dude, that's the best thing I've ever seen. That's the best Rumble I've ever seen. It's really going to be hard for people. I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not even going to try to do it. It's going to be real hard for people who want to compile a top 10 CWF fan or CWF match listing or whatever. It's going to be really hard to do that. And I'll agree with CL Party. Grant's got his work cut out for him when it comes to doing images of the year. And the year ain't over yet. The year's just not over yet. Happy birthday, McAllister, by the way. Mr. McAllister's birthday there. I'm not going to disclose which brother it is, but it's one of the McAllister brothers' birthday. So I will say that one embarrassing moment for FanCon. I'll tell a FanCon story real quick. I have actually been, believe it or not, I've actually been losing weight, okay? I am under 300 pounds for the first time in about 10 years, okay? One of the top 17 in CWF history. Yeah. I've actually lost weight, okay? So when I tell you this story, keep that in mind. I'm sitting there at FanCon, and I'm actually sitting two chairs down from Jerry Carey, and we're watching the Rumble from last year. And all of a sudden, my left butt cheek starts to, feel like it's melting. And then all of a sudden, seriously, I'm sitting in this metal chair, and my left ass cheek starts sagging. And the next thing you know, boom, I'm on the floor. This fucking chair that I was sitting in bent out from right underneath me. And it's so damn embarrassing. When I look at it now, it's laughable. But here I am. It's FanCon. We're all watching matches. And my fat ass just breaks a chair, falls on the floor. And I'm sitting there going, I'm losing weight. I'm not supposed to break metal chairs when you lose weight. What the hell? Something tells me that was an old chair, or either that or somebody ribbed me. Somebody may have ribbed me. I doubt it, though. It's probably just an old chair. But that's the moments that you got to see. You want to come see me break chairs with my ass? Come to FanCon next year, I guess. JB's probably listening to this going, it's not a good selling point, White. Shut up. But, yeah, so that was the most embarrassing moment of FanCon, I guess you could say, was me breaking a chair. I didn't mean to break the chair, but anyway. We're going to get out of here tonight, folks. Next week, we're going to have more FanCon stuff. I might delay the Nick Richards interview till next week, too. But we got a lot of stuff. It'll be $10. Yeah, $10. Mm-hmm. They got the $10 out of me with the food. That's probably why I broke the chair, because I had 2 huge-ass pieces of chicken parm. One of the back-busting chairs. Yeah, I would not be surprised if it was one of the chairs that had been used for that many a times. I've never done that to a metal folding chair. There's people bigger than me that come into that building and don't break chairs like that. So I'm of the opinion that I was either ribbed or that chair was already bent. So there you go. We're going to get out of here this week. Next week, we're going to cover the Rumble. It'll be CWF Worldwide episode, I believe, 128. Let me check here. Golly, I took so many notes on this show tonight. Yeah, it'll be episode 128 next week. Golly, we're almost up to 130 episodes. I wonder what they're going to do for episode 150. We're not going to reach 150 before the end of the year. Maybe we will. I don't know. But we got another tournament to sit through this week. I know that much. I will say I did listen to some of the podcasts that Dylan Hales did for PW Ponderings. And I got to say, I liked a lot of the things he mentioned. I wish they would have spent more time putting over CWF and talking about the event more, because they kind of just brushed over it, but that's just me. We're going to get out of here tonight, folks, because I got to wake up early for work in the morning. I wish I could just fucking retire. I really do. You guys don't know how badly I just want to sit and do radio for a living. It would be so awesome. But we're going to get out of here tonight, folks. Oh, God. That was fucking loud. I'm sorry. Jesus. Well, now that your eardrums are blasted out, we'll see you next week, everybody.